My sister put me on the vendor list at her wedding, then our fathers will shocked everyone. Welcome back with a new real shock story. Before we start, comment and tell me which city you're watching from. At the end, don't forget to subscribe and rate it from 0 to 10. Let's enjoy the story, everyone.
It started on a day I'll never forget. I wasn't expecting anything dramatic, just another normal moment in life, but somehow, everything shifted in seconds. My sister, the one I grew up with, the one I trusted more than anyone, had put my name on something I didn't even know existed. She said it was harmless. But that day at her wedding, when my name appeared on her vendor list, it wasn't just a surprise. It was the start of something I could never have prepared for. I was standing at the edge of the reception hall, the air heavy with laughter and music, the kind of joy that usually feels permanent. I should have been happy for her. I should have been part of the celebration. But there was this strange weight on my chest, like a shadow lurking under all that light. People smiled at me, some nodded politely, but I couldn't shake the feeling something important was unfolding behind the scenes. My sister had been planning her wedding for months. Everything looked perfect. Flowers in soft ivory and blush tones, candles flickering along the aisle, laughter spilling out of the reception hall. But there was a quiet tension, one I only noticed later. I didn't see the look my dad exchanged with her before she handed the list to the wedding planner. I didn't notice the way his hands trembled ever so slightly. I didn't know then that the list was not just a list. It was a key to a secret no one was ready to speak about. That evening, as the vows were exchanged and the champagne glasses clinked, my name kept running through my head. Why was I on the vendor list? I hadn't been part of the wedding planning. I hadn't offered to help. And yet there it was. My name, next to florists, photographers, caterers. Only this wasn't the usual kind of vendor list. This was something different. Something tied to my father's will. Something hidden. Weeks later, when I finally confronted my sister, her smile was sharp, almost rehearsed. "It's nothing, Alec. Don't overthink it," she said. But her eyes told another story. She was scared. And I didn't know it then. But her fear was the warning I should have listened to. Because what happened next wasn't just a family drama. It was something that would tear apart everything I thought I knew about us. It all began that night, when Dad disappeared from the reception without a word. No goodbye, no explanation, just gone. At first we thought he stepped outside for air, but then whispers started. Whispers about Dad's will, whispers that no one wanted to say aloud. And when those whispers reached me, my heart sank. Something was buried deep in that document. Something that wasn't meant to be discovered. Not like this. The truth was stranger than anything I could imagine. My sister's wedding wasn't just a celebration. It was a stage. A stage where a secret would be revealed, one that had been hidden for decades. My name being on that vendor list wasn't an accident. It was a signal. A message wrapped in paper no one had dared to open until the right moment. And that moment was unfolding right there in the middle of our family, in front of everyone. I can still remember standing by the edge of the hall, clutching my phone, my mind racing. Everyone was laughing, toasting, celebrating. But I felt like I was watching a slow-motion scene of a storm about to hit. And then the call came. My sister. Her voice was shaking. "Alec, you need to come to the garden. Now." That was all she said before hanging up. I followed her out quietly, weaving past guests, my heart pounding. The garden was empty except for Dad. His face was pale, his hands clutching something that looked like a letter. He looked up, and for a moment, I thought he might speak, but he didn't. He just handed me the paper and walked away, without a word. When I unfolded it, the world seemed to tilt. Dad's handwriting was unmistakable, but the words on the page were a puzzle of betrayal and hidden truth. It wasn't just a will. It was an accusation. A revelation that threatened to undo everything I knew about my family. And worse, my sister's role in it. That night, my sister's wedding became something else entirely. It wasn't a celebration anymore. It was the opening act of a story that I was now living. And I knew one thing for sure. I couldn't turn away. Not now. Not when the truth was so close. But what was written in Dad's will? And why was my name tied to it in a way no one could explain? That question burned in my mind as I stood there under the glowing lights, knowing everything was about to change. And I had no idea just how deep the secret went. I stood there under the garden lights, Dad's letter trembling in my hands. The paper felt heavier than anything I'd ever held. It wasn't just words on a page. It was a weight of truth I wasn't ready for. My sister's voice called softly behind me, but I didn't turn. I just stood frozen, reading again, trying to make sense of the words. My name was written there, not just mentioned, but in a way that felt like an accusation. My hands shook. I wanted to ask her what it meant, but I knew the moment I spoke, something fragile would break. Something between us that I didn't know I'd already lost. So I stayed quiet, slipping the letter into my purse, forcing myself to breathe. The wedding behind us was still alive, music drifting softly through the garden, laughter floating toward us. But for me, it felt like the sound of another world. One I wasn't part of anymore. I realized that night how fragile trust could be, how quickly a simple celebration could turn into a war zone. Later in my room, I kept replaying the scene over and over. My sister's hesitation, Dad's sudden departure, the way the letter was handed to me like a secret I wasn't supposed to know. I couldn't shake the feeling that something bigger was happening. Something no one in my family wanted to admit. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized that wedding day wasn't about vows or love. It was about a truth that had been buried for years. The days that followed were chaos. My sister avoided me. Every time I tried to bring it up, she smiled faintly, nodded, then walked away. Dad didn't answer my calls. The rest of my family acted like nothing had changed. But I knew better. The air between us was heavy with silence and suspicion. Then came the whispers. Not rumors exactly, more like half-spoken sentences overheard at family dinners. It's in the will. She wasn't supposed to know. It changes everything. I started hearing them everywhere, even in places I wasn't meant to. At work, at the coffee shop, in the grocery store. People looked at me differently, and I realized they were seeing me as part of something they couldn't name. One night, I stayed up reading the letter again. Every line felt like a piece of a puzzle I didn't want to complete. It mentioned things about Dad's business, his savings, and, most shockingly, a decision he made years ago that no one in our family knew about. It hinted at a division of property that could destroy relationships. My sister's name appeared several times, and then mine. My heart stopped. This wasn't just about her wedding anymore. This was about something my whole family had been hiding. I knew I had to confront her. But when I went to her apartment, she shut the door before I could speak. No explanation, No reassurance. Just silence. That silence was louder than any argument we could have had. Days turned into a week, and the tension was unbearable. Every family gathering felt like walking on glass. No one wanted to look me in the eye. The air was thick with secrets, and I kept wondering, what if Dad's hidden will was never meant for me to see? What if I had stumbled onto something and I wasn't supposed to? Then came the night I saw her again, alone, staring at her phone with tears in her eyes. I wanted to ask her, to demand answers, but instead, I just stood there, watching. My sister was crying quietly, her shoulders shaking under the dim light of her living room. That moment told me everything. She was afraid, not of me, but of what was coming. The next morning, I woke up to a message on my phone. It was from her. 3 words. We need to talk. And that one message set off a chain of events that I couldn't stop. I met her at a small cafe. She didn't look at me when I sat down. Her fingers twisted nervously around her coffee cup. Alec, it's about Dad. And the will. I can't explain everything right now, but you need to be careful. There are people who won't want this truth to get out. Her voice was trembling. My stomach twisted. People? Who? What truth? She shook her head. I can't tell you yet. Not here. But you need to trust me. Trust. That word felt like a knife twisting in my chest. I didn't know if I could trust her anymore. I didn't even know if I could trust myself. But something deep inside told me I had to keep going, to uncover whatever secret Dad had hidden before it swallowed everything we had left. That was when I realized I was no longer just a sister at a wedding. I was part of a story I didn't ask for, a story that was about to get much darker. And I couldn't turn away. The cafe felt colder than usual, even though it was warm inside. I sat there with my coffee cooling in front of me, listening to her words hang in the air. My sister's eyes avoided mine, but her voice trembled in a way that told me she was carrying more than she wanted to say. My hands tightened around my cup. I wanted answers, but I knew she wasn't ready. After what felt like hours, she finally spoke again. Alec, it's about the will. Dad, he didn't just leave us money. There's more. Something he kept hidden for years. And now people are noticing. Her words were slow, careful, like she was trying not to tiptoe into something dangerous. The will changes everything. Property, businesses, family ties, and it names you. My breath caught. Me? Why? Why me? I asked softly. Her head shook, and she looked away. I can't explain here, but someone is watching us. You need to be careful. I mean it. I left the cafe that night feeling heavier than ever. Her warning clung to me, twisting my thoughts. Who could be watching? And why was Dad's will a secret? My mind raced with possibilities. I started checking my phone obsessively, looking for anything unusual. Strange numbers, missed calls, but there was nothing, or at least nothing obvious. The days after that were strange. I began noticing small things. My car door unlocked even when I was sure I locked it. At work, people stared at me oddly. Whispers followed me in hallways. Once, I found my notebook moved on my desk with a single word written in it. Beware. My skin crawled. My pulse quickened every time my phone buzzed. I felt like I was living inside a shadow. one I couldn't escape. And then, one night, I got a call. No voice, just static. Then, a click. It was enough to send chills down my spine. I didn't sleep that night. Every creak in my apartment sounded like footsteps. Every shadow looked like someone watching me. I began to feel trapped in my own life. Finally, I confronted my sister. I found her at her apartment again. This time, she didn't shut the door. She let me in. Her apartment was quiet, dim. The air felt heavy. She sat me down and handed me an envelope, old, worn, with Dad's handwriting on it. "Alec, you need to see this." Inside was a photocopy of a document. It looked like part of a will. My name was written in bold letters. But what shocked me wasn't just that I was mentioned, it was what followed. A list of properties, bank accounts, and businesses. Ones I'd never heard of. And then, something that froze me in place. There was a note scribbled in the margin. "Do not let them take it. Protect it at all costs." My sister's eyes were wet. "Alec, Dad trusted you with something dangerous. And now, there are people who will stop at nothing to get it." Her voice cracked. "They've already started." I stared at the paper. My heart pounded so hard I thought it would burst. I felt like the ground under me had disappeared. Everything I thought I knew about my family was gone. All I had now was this. A dangerous secret, a warning I couldn't ignore, and a sister who was terrified. That night, I sat alone in my room, reading the will over and over. My hands shook. Every word felt heavier. Every sentence pulled me deeper into something I wasn't ready for. And then I realized. The wedding, the letter, my sister's silence. It was never about her day. It was about this moment, about me. The next day, I tried to act normal, but I wasn't. My mind was somewhere else, calculating, questioning. I began to notice people following me. A man in a black jacket at the bus stop, a car that lingered too long outside my building. My phone kept buzzing with unknown numbers. My anxiety grew with each passing day. One afternoon, I got a text. No name, just, "They know." My chest tightened. I didn't know who they were, but I knew my sister was right. Something was coming. Something that could destroy everything. I went to her again. "We can't keep hiding," I told her. "We have to find out what Dad meant, what this is all about." She nodded, but her eyes were filled with fear. "Alec, once we step into this, there's no going back." I didn't answer. I already knew that. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling. My mind kept replaying Dad's letter, his handwriting, his words, and that final line, so heavy it felt like a warning carved into my soul. Trust no one. Somewhere deep down, I knew my life had changed forever, and the moment of truth was coming. That night, sleep never came. Every sound in my apartment felt louder, my breathing, the hum of the fridge, even the faint rustle of my curtains. My phone sat on the nightstand, glowing softly with the last unread message. "They know." I couldn't shake the dread crawling up my spine. Morning came with no relief. My coffee burned my tongue as I stared out the window, trying to convince myself I was just overreacting, but deep inside, I knew I wasn't. Something was coming for me. Something Dad had warned me about. By noon, I was already on edge. Every footstep outside my door made my heart race. I kept my bag packed. Phone, charger, Dad's will, my ID, just in case. That's when the knock came. Light at first. Polite. But my body froze. My mind screamed, "Don't answer." Still, I moved toward the door. Through the peephole, I saw no one. I opened it just enough to peek outside. The hallway was empty. But there, on the floor, lay an envelope. My name scrawled in the same handwriting as Dad's letter. I snatched it up, my hands trembling. Inside was a single sheet of paper. Just 4 words. Meet me. Midnight. Parkside Bridge. No name, no explanation. The rest of the day passed in a blur. I couldn't focus at work. My mind kept circling back to the note. Who was calling me? And why now? My sister kept her phone off. I couldn't reach her. By evening, I decided I had no choice. I had to go. I told myself it was about answers. It was about protecting Dad's secret. And maybe survival. I arrived at Parkside Bridge right before midnight. The air was cold, biting. Fog curled around the street lamps, making the bridge look like something out of a nightmare. My footsteps echoed. My pulse thundered in my ears. I scanned every shadow. Then I heard footsteps. Behind me, slow, purposeful. My heart jumped. I turned. Nobody was there. But then, a voice whispered from the darkness. Alec Rose. I froze. The voice was low, rough, filled with warning. Who's the car? Are? I called. Silence. Then, a shape stepped out of the fog. A man, tall, dressed in black. His face was hidden, but his presence felt heavy. He held out a phone. On it was a video. I stepped closer despite my fear. The video showed my sister, crying, her apartment, the envelope she handed me in chapter 3. Then, a voice I recognized. Dad's. If you are seeing this, it means they are coming for you. Protect what I've left. Trust no one, even those you love. The video ended abruptly. My chest ached. My knees felt weak. Before I could speak, the man vanished into the fog. I was alone, frozen. My phone buzzed again. Another message. Don't trust her. My hands shook. My mind raced. Was my sister protecting me or leading me into danger? Suddenly, footsteps came again. Closer this time. My instinct screamed to run, but something inside told me I had to see it through. Whoever was behind this, whatever Dad hid, it was all tied to me now. And whatever happened next, there would be no turning back. I didn't sleep that night. The fog on Parkside Bridge still lingered in my mind, thick and cold. My hands trembled every time I touched my phone. That video. Dad's voice. My sister's tears. The warning. It was carved deep into me now. I knew my life had changed forever. The next morning, I called her. No answer. My heart sank. I went to her apartment. The door was ajar. Inside, everything was untouched. But there was no sign of her. Just another envelope, this time lying on the couch, sealed with Dad's handwriting. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside was another letter, longer, his words spilling out like he was speaking to me directly. Alec, if you are reading this, then my fears were right. The truth I've kept hidden is dangerous. They will come for you. You must protect what I have left. And you must never trust those closest to you. This is bigger than our family. This is about a promise I made. You are the only one who can finish it. Tears blurred my vision. I clutched the letter to my chest. My sister. Where was she? Was she protecting me? Or was she in danger too? Days passed. I stayed hidden, moving between friends' houses, checking my surroundings constantly. I stopped answering calls from unknown numbers. My world became a blur of fear and questions. Every knock at the door made my heart skip a beat. Every message felt like a test. One evening, I found myself back at Dad's old study. My fingers traced his books, his papers. Then I found a small safe. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside was a document, the real will. It revealed not just money and property, but something much bigger. Dad had left behind evidence of corruption, a secret that could ruin powerful people. That's why they wanted it. That's why they were coming for me. I realized then what my sister meant. This wasn't just about inheritance. It was about survival, about truth, about justice. The next day, I disappeared. I left a note for her, for anyone who would read it. I'm doing this for us, for the truth, for Dad. Trust no one. I don't know where I'm going, or if I'll ever be safe again. But I know this. I can't let them win. I can't let Dad's secret die with him. Sometimes, in the quiet of the night, I still hear her voice in my mind, whispering, "Alec, be careful." And I wonder, will I ever know the whole truth? Because some secrets, they aren't meant to stay hidden. They're meant to be uncovered. And mine is just beginning.